How's it going, guys? Happy June 23rd, 2020. Want to say first and foremost that I know it's been a minute since I've created content for good reason. This has been an insane growth period for Every Second Accounts. Want to touch on that a little bit, but also talk about what the future looks like and everything in between. So bringing you guys up to speed on 2020. 2020 has been absolutely insane in terms of growth for Every Second Accounts. I do understand everything that's going on out there, so I want to be sensitive to how stressful and how crazy of a year that it has been for so many out there. But I also want to stick and, kind of talk about my truth and what's been going on. So obviously through this, pandemic, as remote work has become more and more the norm, obviously Every Second Accounts being a remote accounting services company, it really has taken off in a way that I couldn't have envisioned. And there are some pros and some cons with that. And I would like to go over those a little bit and explain, my story in hopes that, even the last 3 months and some of my perspectives and some of my handlings, which I could have, done a lot better. I really do hope that they can bring value to you. So truly to kick it off, obviously 2020 up to speed. COVID has been the foundation to all of our stories, regardless of how you're impacted. As I said, my personal experience has been one that it sent ESA into what I deem to be hypergrowth. No, I'm not doing millions of dollars a year or anything like that, but, went basically 3 to 4 times my client base that I came into 2020 with. And throughout this path or journey of the past few months, I've certainly learned a lot about myself and also figured out that basically I've been the biggest detriment to my own company, which I don't say lightly, but I say it with a smile because it's a beautiful thing to realize, in that now that if I can just get out of my own way and if I can get my own limitations, to the side, what that could mean for Every Second Accounts moving forward. And that just has me on cloud 9 and has me ready to run through brick walls. So for me, going through the growth that I have, I've always I want to start by saying I've always scoffed at people who have mentioned or brought up, and you hear it often, that scaling too fast is a problem. It's actually a big detriment to growth and long-term success to have, quote unquote, overnight success or scaling too fast, because you're not able to take it on, and then the work suffers or the product suffers and you're not able to fulfill everything perfectly. And then, once you, kind of sputter, it's difficult to come back from this or that, a plethora of different explanations. But I always scoffed at that because I thought, we'll just work harder or just get it done. Like, it's pretty simple. But now I realize that was said pretty ignorantly, as now that I've, kind of had the experience, I completely understand, what stresses come along with that. And although they're good stresses, because at the end of the day, you wouldn't trade them for the world, it's still stress. And for me, basically, I've been putting in 14, 15-hour days since I was 16 years old within the field. And when that's not enough, and when that, foundation of work ethic becomes insufficient for the work at hand, that, it's time to expand, time to grow, and time to get stuff figured out more than anything. And that's what these past few months have really brought me, is clarity on the things that I want, the things that I have to do, and, the things that I'm responsible for, being a business owner and, answering to the most important people in my world, my clients. And I'd like to talk a little bit about that. So you guys who watch this can hopefully get a bit of, some insights on what went well, what to do, what not to do, and what I would recommend, to focus on. So I will say the things that have gone well are, obviously, there's nothing more important than your current client base. Throughout any sort of growth, through any sort of influx in new work or new customers, whatever, there's nothing more important than making sure that the ones who have been with you and the ones who you currently have on are taken care of. And that's something I made sure of throughout this period, to the best of my abilities, that, I stayed on top of everything that I could. And while there were certainly some lapses that are untraditional for me, I think, for the most part, I really stayed on top of it uber well. And that's something that I cannot recommend more, is at the end of the day, growth is tremendous. Growth is wonderful. It's what all of us are after. There's nothing more important than your day one clients, or the ones that you already have on, because there's no point in bringing on a new client if you don't already have the ability to service the clients that you already have. So that would really be point number one. Point number two, I would say throughout the growth period, ensuring that you have a schedule that can hold what you're trying to do. So I put a back seat to responding to LinkedIn DMs, to responding to emails from people that weren't my clients and stuff like that. But I still, schedule the times that I would respond. And even if it wasn't as fast as I normally would have in the past, or truly if as the new clients, or potential clients would have liked, I did what I had to do to ensure that, I still kept those blocks of time and that they were there, and just that you're very scheduled so that you can fit everything in. Really, I will say that those are the only positives that I had throughout this period, were making sure that my former clients or existing clients were serviced, and that I kept a schedule to stay on some track of sanity throughout it. But really, I did a lot of it poorly. And I think there's more lessons in learning than in things that go not wrong, but things that don't always happen on the up and up. I think you find more from it. So I'd like to focus on those a little bit. And first and foremost, lose the ego and get out of your own way. And when I said earlier that I've really come to realize throughout this process that I've been a detriment to every second it counts more than anyone. It's that realization that throughout this process, I've realized how much my ego and my abilities and my time, where I thought, it was the most valuable thing to the company, I actually am realizing now that it's actually the thing that's holding it back, because I've turned away countless clients. I've not delegated any work that I'm now finding out that my clients are more than open to me, not handling myself. And I just never wanted to have the conversation because, well, no one's going to do it better than me. And I have to make sure that, everything is handled, from the bookkeeping to the CFO level work. And I really, really, really got lost in my ego being the hindrance to growth, in the thought that no one's going to be able to do any work better than me. So I have to, always remain on top of it and have a hand in everything. And that's simply not the case. And I know that that's something that so many out there know, but don't really know, because you don't know until you get there. And that's now moving forward, something that I'm absolutely shifting. Absolutely learning to delegate. And that's where I think the future potential of ESA is now limitless, because I'm finally, letting that ego down and taking a step back and realizing that trying to remain either a one-man show or trying to stay in a position where I have a hand in absolutely everything is what just isn't scalable. It's not practical. It's driven me down a path of feeling overwhelmed and questioning a lot of things. Just basically no longer having clarity, which isn't good for anyone, much less someone trying to build a company or someone, servicing over a dozen companies. It's not good to be in a position of, feeling overwhelmed and feeling a lack of clarity. So I would say first and foremost, the recommendation for each of you would be to get out of your own way and know that it is okay to ask for help. There are very, very talented people out there who can easily, I don't want to say easily replicate, but who can replicate the work that you're doing, which will take a lot of stress off your shoulders and who will actually be the foundation to you actually succeeding at a much higher level than you think you can attain today. And that leads into lesson number 2 that I've learned throughout this process, is that you have to still have time to focus on your health and focus on your well-being. So I'm very vocal about my background and the fact that I've pretty much worked 14 to 15 hour days every day since I was 16, 17 years old. And it's a journey and a path and a badge that I wear proudly. It's a work ethic that I believe is very rare, and one that I am very, very proud of. I've been able to balance it super well. I'm always in a super great headspace still, not saying I don't, reach burnouts and stuff like that, but I've always been able to navigate them super well. And yeah, it's just kind of a badge that I really do wear with honor and pride, in that I've had the work ethic in the manner in which I have. But throughout this process, I've really, really lost the balance that keeps those long days possible. And it was losing a focus on health. It was losing a focus on taking a trip or, watching a movie here or there, because I was truly have been overwhelmed to the point of where you have so much on your plate that you then don't start doing anything. And it's a stereotypical feeling of overwhelmed, as I mentioned earlier, where you have so much going on that you just don't know where to start, so you don't start, which then leads into a cycle of you not getting anything done, which then makes you more stressed. And then, it's just the rabbit hole that you kind of go down. And the longer you spend digging down that rabbit hole, the harder it is to dig out of. Now, for me, I never really got to where I wasn't performing. As I mentioned earlier, I put a huge focus on always ensuring that, work was getting done in a timely manner and the clients are happy, but it still wasn't, the above and beyond that I'm used to and that I expect to deliver. And also took a huge detriment then on my health, because I was basically focusing night and day on client work. And throughout that, I wasn't going to the gym. I wasn't eating healthy. I became a takeout king throughout quarantine. And I could just feel it, in my day-to-day being that, I wasn't running at a high efficiency. And once I said this is all part of the rabbit hole, then, then the food can kind of become a comfort level for you. And when that happens, then, you don't feel as great. When you don't feel as great, you're not as motivated. When you're not as motivated, the work isn't getting done. When the work isn't getting done, you feel overwhelmed. When you feel overwhelmed, you go to something that's comfort, which is food, and you just continue this cycle. And I really, really felt that continuing to happen. And that's a big reason for this video today is like, I'm using today as like, I'm not a planning in the future guy of, hey, like July 1st or something like that. It's like, hell no, June 23rd, this random Tuesday. I woke up this morning, it was like, nope, I'm tired of this. I'm absolutely changing my shit. Like 110% today. I'm going back to over delivering. I will delegate what I have to delegate. And this is now an on switch to what I want to be, my journey today, my story tomorrow, and the story for the remainder of my, journey. So I'm going to be doing these types of videos, talking about the stuff that I'm experiencing, whether or not it's valuable for those of you out there. I'm also doing it for myself to have this documented. I am officially, I guess this is somewhat of an announcement, but kind of, my story is interesting in that ESA has pretty much been a side hustle up to this point. I've always had a 9 to 5. That's the bulk of my, security foundation. And once again, being a hindrance to my own growth or hindrance to ESA's growth, being the biggest roadblock standing in its way was myself. And that, you kind of get the golden handcuffs of having a 9 to 5 and, the traditional standard paychecks and benefits and et cetera, et cetera. And really, I've seen throughout this pandemic as it almost was, God's way of slapping me in the face and saying, hey, this thing that you've created is there. It does work. You actually have to make it happen. It's like here, I've given you a start to show that it's real. It is certainly the company that you envisioned it was when you were building it, but you have to get out of its way and let it grow. And that's what I'm using really today as that pivotal point to really start seeing it through and building it to the company that I know that it can be and that it was built to be. But throughout, the last 2.5 years of every second accounts, I would say, obviously, as someone who is very, very mindful of a growth mindset and just growing as an individual, I built it to be a side hustle. I built it to be something that was strictly on the side, as I didn't see myself as a founder, as an owner, as someone who could build a corporation. I always, pigeonholed myself by really, bragging that I was the world's best number 2. Like, you show me a roadmap, I'll show you how to get there, but I never really had the belief year and a half ago that I could, build something. Shit, I'll even be honest and just say even 6 months ago, beginning 2020, I didn't, see myself as an entrepreneur, as a founder, as, really anything, because I've really worn the identity of a 9 to 5 for so long and used that as kind of worn that badge as a badge of security from the fears that I had and what, starting and truly going all in on a company brings, which I realized was just, it was just trying to be a mask for my insecurities and, what I thought were my inefficiencies. But the more that I study growth mindset and the more that I continue to evolve, not only, still within my field, but also as a number 1 and as leading and as trying to grow a company, I've seen that I absolutely can do it. And seeing that I'm not going to have it all figured out the first go around, and I'm not going to have it all, figured out day to day even. But that's what I think these videos are going to be cool, is that, as I learn these lessons and as I hit different roadblocks, it's just going to continue to, I'm going to continue to build and continue to get better and continue to grow from there. So yeah, I realize I've now been rambling for a minute, but I'm very much looking forward to, what these next steps look like. I guess another announcement is that I absolutely am going full time into every second accounts. I am going to be looking to hire to support the growth of the company. And I'm just excited for what today, tomorrow, and, the next 6 months of the year and the next couple of years are going to bring. As I've said in the past, I basically felt with every second accounts that I invented the wheel of the accounting industry, and I was a caveman sitting in a cave with this wheel, but I would basically only be able to tell people who walk by my cave, because, and that was a limiting belief for me. And that's why it was a frustrating time. Basically, to recap, like, I'm very, very excited for where Every Second Accounts is going. I am finally taking on Every Second Accounts full time. I honestly have full hope and belief that now that I realize what I need to do as an operator to get out of the company's way, and to, instead of being a detriment to its growth, being the spark that actually allows it to manifest into what I know that it can be, I couldn't be more excited. So to conclude, thank you so much for watching this. I truly do appreciate it. I'm very excited to see where this journey takes not only me, but takes the company and takes each and every one of you who are along the ride with me. As I said, going to be doing these videos on a daily basis. I don't think it'll be released like a daily vlog, as I don't have the team to see that through, but we will be clipping stuff together. I don't know what it's going to look like, but like I said, I also am not a person who tries to plan everything first. I just click record this morning and here we are. So I'm very, very excited to see what comes of it. I'm very excited to be documenting this journey. I think this is going to be a pivotal video to look back on and see, where this mindset shift of mine happened, where I just wanted to bring clarity to not only myself, but, to the company, to my clients, because I know that, this is a nice reset button here. And the fact that I've made it through this pandemic of growth with still having everything truly intact and still having a more than happy client base, still, standing here today without letting anything, personal fall by the wayside. I knew that today was a day that, it's perfect, it's time, and I'm really, really excited to see where it goes from here. I have clarity today that I haven't had, prior, and I look forward to, looking back on this video and thinking, man, I really still didn't have it figured out. But if that's how I look back on this video, then I know that I'm on the right path. And I'm just truly, truly feeling beyond blessed of how 2020 has kicked off. And I hope that you guys find value in some of these lessons. And I hope that I continue to put out content and stuff like that, that you guys continue to connect, continue to follow. And as you guys always know, I appreciate your time and insights and conversations more than anything. So reach out anytime. And yeah, thank you so very much. I look forward to chatting again soon.